From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Open Line on Wednesday night. I am Ben Hall. Good show tonight. We are happy to have with us the mayor of Nashville. Mayor Karl Dean is joining us. Mayor Dean, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
This will be the last time you're here during your term as mayor. Happy you're here again. We want to talk a little bit about your accomplishments, disappointments, all of that, but also just what has happened in the news since you were here last. And of all of that, today was a very big news day. Today, the president came here, and here is President Obama arriving. You were out there at the airport, right?
Right.
You greeted him.
At the bottom of those stairs.
I think we'll have a picture of you. So how does this work? So the president arrives, you're there to greet him. How much interaction is there? Kind of what happens here?
Well, in my 3 times greeting this president at the airport, you go out there probably an hour, hour and a half before he arrives and wait, and then they take you out when the plane lands, and you wait at the bottom of the stairs, welcome him to Nashville. And I've had the opportunity and I guess the honor of 3 times riding with him in his car to the destination.
So you meet him there, you greet him, shake hands, then you get in the car and ride with him.
Yeah, and you know, he's come really in the last 2 years, 18 months or so, 3 times, and it's really a great honor for the city. He's come, the first time was he came to McGavick High School to, I think, celebrate some of the achievements there and some of the work that's going on in education in Nashville. He came in December of 14 to go to Casa Asafran to talk about immigration and to talk about being a diverse and welcoming society, and noted some of the accomplishments Nashville has done. And then today, of course, he was here to talk about the Affordable Care Act and health care.
In the limousine, how much discussion is there? And is it more small talk, or is there serious talk of some nature going on? What happens in the limousine?
Well, I would say it's more small talk. You know, at various times you may have specific things that are brought up, but today was just talking about things in general. He is always, it seems to me, very relaxed. He's always very calm. You know, we talked about just a whole series of things that just had to do with, you know, where life is. He asked about family. We talked about his family, and we talked about the city, obviously. And it was an enjoyable ride. And I think every time I've done it, I've been with Congressman Cooper, has been there, and then there's usually somebody from his staff also in the car. Today was a little unique because we not only went to Madison, where the event was held, but we went to Madison and picked up Kelly Bryant, who was one of the reasons that he was here in Nashville today. She had written a letter to him talking about how the Affordable Care Act had helped her, and he wanted to meet her and wanted her to ride with him to the event. So we actually got off, I guess probably Parkway, and went to her home and picked her up. And it was interesting because you get there, it's a residential neighborhood, and you have all this media out in the street, and it's not a small group of cars coming. It's a lot of cars and with a lot of security. And the president hops out of the presidential limousine and gets an umbrella because it was raining, and goes to the door to bring her to the car.
And how much I mean, obviously there's a ton of pre-planning. How much is the mayor's office involved in that? Are they asking you what's a good school, or do they call up and say, we want to go to this place, here, here, and here? How much interaction is there between the White House and the mayor's office?
There is a lot of interaction with some of our staff members about locations that they have thought about generally in advance. You don't get a lot of notice, I mean, maybe a week or whatever, but they have thought about doing an event in Nashville, have thought about particular locations that are relevant to whatever they want to discuss while they're here. And we help them with that. Obviously, like Metro Schools, because of the event at McGavick and the event today, have been very involved. Members of my staff are involved. The police department is very involved. And so it doesn't take up all of their time, but they're honored to do it. I mean, it's exciting when the White House calls and says we want to we're sending people down to look at these locations. Would you have somebody come with us and work with us on it? And we're happy to do that.
Governor Haslam was not there today, and he hasn't been there the other times that he's come to our area, I believe. What do you think of that? What do you think of the fact the governor of the state was not there to greet him today?
Well, I think the governor has had, over the course of the 3 visits he's made, he's had conflicts, and I don't know why he wasn't there today, but he has things he's doing, and I don't read much into it. I mean, obviously there are different political parties and everything, and he makes his own determinations, and I respect him and like him. I think he's a great guy.
You don't think it's a snub in some way? There's some people who question why isn't the governor there.
Again, I have tremendous respect for Governor Haslam, and I wouldn't interpret it as a snub. When I was first elected mayor, George W. Bush was the president. He came to Nashville twice for official business. I think both times related to a natural disaster, not in Nashville, but tornadoes or something. And I was invited to go to the airport to greet him, and did. And it was not that much of a press event. I don't recall, all the cameras or the magnitude of what we had with President Obama's visits. But when I think as the mayor, he's coming to our city, and I go out and say hi and welcome him to the city.
All right, shifting gears a bit as far as other news. Last night, the school board met.
Yep.
And they changed their mind again on who the interim director of schools would be.
Right.
So they started out announcing one person, then they announced a different person, and they went back to that initial person, Chris Henson.
Yep.
What do you think of what has been going on with the school board?
Well, my understanding of what happened just recently is really, from what I've read in the newspapers and seen on television, is that there was somebody filed a complaint about an open meetings violation, and that there wasn't a public debate or discussion of the possible interim candidates, just a vote. And so they wanted to reconsider that, which, if there was a violation, the remedy is to nullify that and then do a reconsideration, which is what apparently they did yesterday. I haven't watched it. And then Chris Henson, who is the chief financial officer for the district, was selected. And Chris, who I saw today out at the president's event, was the interim director shortly after I started my time as mayor. Remember, Dr. Garcia left shortly after that, and Chris served as interim for a year almost, if not more, and I thought did an excellent job. And so he'll be fine. I mean, clearly there's a divide in the board about what direction they want to go with this. And I think that's reflected in this. I think both people who have been mentioned, Jay Steele and Chris Henson, have a lot of great qualifications and things, but there's clearly a divide, and I think I'm confident that Chris will do a good job. I don't know what it means for the search. I mean, I think they had talked for a long time about the search being done in June, and it's July 1st, so I mean, clearly that won't happen. And maybe that's will be fine. If I've always kind of believed that it would be good to get the input from the next mayor on that decision, because that's going to be a pretty key relationship. But
does it concern you that whoever the next person might be, they look at some of this chaos or whatever you want to call it, and it makes this job less attractive?
Well, I've read some things saying that one of the concerns from the search companies or some of the board members was that if there is this apparent uncertainty about what they're going to do, or if there are people that are being looked at from the inside, and there's clearly a board divide, that there may be a reluctance on some candidates' part to apply. You remember, when candidates apply for a job like this, mostly they're coming from other districts where they may already be the director of schools, or they may be high-level person in someone else's administration. And so it's a big decision for them to go public and go through this if they become a finalist. And so they're probably a little bit nervous about any sort of uncertainty. At the same time, I think that being the director of schools in Nashville would be I would think would be perceived by anyone as a good job. I think Dr. Register certainly has big shoes to fill, but he's also shown that it can be done successfully, that somebody can hold that position for, beyond the lifespan of a normal director of schools and succeed, which which he did. And so I think people would look at that and be encouraged. So I wouldn't read too much into it and saying that that'll make it impossible to find a good director. I think they still will be able to do that. This is Nashville's got going for it. It's got a state that is very committed to education. The governor has an excellent Department of Education. Education reform is really advanced in the state. I think you have a city that is very focused on education, be it obviously the parents, but also the Chamber of Commerce, nonprofit groups are organized, focusing on education, that people will look at it as a good job. And the city is obviously growing. It's got a strong economy. So there's a lot of elements here that I think would have a lot of appeal to a lot of potential applicants.
All right, a lot to discuss tonight. We're going to take a break. We'll take a couple of phone calls when we come back. We'll talk about your tenure as mayor and all kinds of different stuff. We'll take a break. If you want to call, there's the number 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Be back right after this.